Welcome again to Your Pet, Your Vet. Today I want to talk to you about heartworms. Heartworms, I'm sure everybody's familiar with heartworms. It's a very serious disease that infects dogs and, believe it or not, cats. A lot of people don't realize that, but cats are also infected with heartworms. The incidence in cats is considered to be about 20% the incidence of dogs. So that means if the incidence in a certain area is, say, 20% in the dog population, then that means that the cat incidence is about 4%. So although it's not as common in dogs, but because it's so devastating in dogs and cats, prevention is very important. In fact, the #1 symptom of heartworms in cats is sudden death. So that's something we don't want, and even indoor cats are at risk. So it's a very important disease. Indoor dogs are at risk because mosquitoes can come indoors. That's a common misperception that if my pet is indoors all the time, they're not at risk. That's certainly not true. Studies have shown that. So please be sure to practice heartworm prevention on your dogs and cats. And by the way, the problem with heartworms, although we have great products, which I'll talk about in a minute, the incidence or prevalence of heartworms is actually increasing over the years. And the reason why is it's not that the products or the heartworms are resistant. There's been studies to look at that. In fact, in a small little area towards the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, there may be an issue of resistance, but that's as far as it extends, and that's not even clear. The main problem is compliance. On average, families only prevent or use preventative 5 months out of 12. So either folks forget or they just think it's wintertime, they don't have to give it. The problem is that 7-month period pets are getting infected. And I commonly do diagnose heartworms in dogs that are on what I call part-time prevention. I want to talk to you a little bit about what heartworms is and how it's transmitted. This is a visual here, and it shows our little mosquito. Now, in a previous show we talked about ticks, so we're going to talk about mosquitoes now. They transmit bad diseases too, and of course the main disease we want to talk about today is heartworms. And what they do is when a mosquito carrying the heartworm larva, actually it's a microfilariae, no, that's right, the larva, the L3 stage of larva, it takes a blood meal, injects the larva into the subcutaneous tissue, which then gets in the bloodstream, and it works its way by molting. It molts once in the tissues before it gets to the heart, to an L4 form, and then it finally gets to the heart, and it molts from the L4 to the L5, which is also called the young adult, and then it settles in the pulmonary artery, which is here, and the right ventricle. And that's where these heartworms live. To give you an idea, here is a model that actually shows the heartworms in the pulmonary artery and the ventricles. So I always describe it as kind of like spaghetti in your heart, and you don't want that. And just while we're at it, this is actually from a kitty cat that had feline heartworms, and this heartworm adult was in the lungs. And it's a little bit different pathology in dogs and cats. It's mainly a respiratory problem in cats, and we'll explain that on another show. In dogs, it's more of a heart problem, but also can be a respiratory issues as well, and even a heart failure problem. So once they develop into adults in the heart, you have male and female heartworms, believe it or not. They reproduce sexually, and they produce what's called microfilariae. That's the offspring of the heartworms. And then they get into the circulation. Then another mosquito buzzes along and picks up the microfilariae from the dog, and then it develops in the mosquito into the infective larva. So you see it's kind of a circle. That's why we call it a life cycle. And by the way, this is a map that shows the prevalence of heartworms. This is dated. This goes back to 2007, almost 10 years ago, I guess 8 years ago. And this map is much darker now. In fact, the whole country has had heartworms now. And if you'll notice in the southeast, it's much darker. That means there's greater incidence. And if you look real close, here's Towns County, right here. And if you look at that number there, what it corresponds with, it's 51 to 99 cases per clinic. Now, I'll tell you, I don't see quite that much. That's an extremely high level. We typically see around 26 to 50 cases per year. So that's a very high incidence when you think about disease. And because it's so devastating, it's very important that we prevent heartworms. And fortunately today, we have so many great products that are, as I mentioned earlier, are very effective. This is the old standby product that's been around forever, seems like. I think since the 1980s. And it's still a great product. It's called HeartGuard. And the reason why it's so popular is that pets love it. They'll take it from your hand and eat it like candy. And it's just once a month. It also helps the major intestinal parasite. This product is excellent, and a lot of people use this. Trifexis is a newer product, came out a few years ago, and it's very popular because it also controls fleas, prevents and controls fleas and the major intestinal parasites. It's also a monthly product. You give once a month. It's a very popular product because of the fact you can cover fleas also. It was the first oral flea control product. But again, it's also a heartworm control product. This product's been around a long time too, and it's called Sentinel. We use Sentinel Spectrum actually now. We use the newer product, which I don't have the model of, but it looks similar to this. And it also prevents heartworms, the major intestinal parasites, and it also has a flea growth inhibitor, or inhibits the development of fleas. So it has some flea control. So those are your oral options. So if you want to give something once a month, those are your three choices. And it does depend a little bit on how you approach tick control that we talked about in a previous show. But we or your veterinarian can work you through what products makes the most sense from a spectrum perspective and also from what's most cost effective. If you like topicals, this is a great product called Advantage Multi. It also prevents heartworms, very effective, and fleas and the major intestinal parasites. This is another one that I really love for cats. In fact, this is the cat's meow, if you will. It's fantastic because it prevents heartworms, and it also takes care of fleas very well. It also takes care of the major intestinal parasites and ear mites. Therefore, if you use this product once a month, you really don't have to worry about parasites in your cats. This is a great product. To me, all cats should have this applied once a month. And finally, the newer product that's the injectable product. One injection provides 6 months of heartworm prevention. And it works really, really great. It's called ProHeart 6. It also helps with the hookworm. So it has an intestinal worm component as well. So this is one I really highly recommend, particularly if you're having trouble remembering to give these products on a monthly basis. That's the big challenge, frankly, is getting into the tradition or habit to do this every month, because that's what it takes. So this is what I call a great product if you want to do something very simple. And as far as cost, it actually works out to be a little bit cheaper than these other options. But all of them are comparably priced. So it's really a matter of deciding what's going to work best for your pet and what are you going to be able to do and remember to do. Or if you want your veterinarian to help you, because what we do is we send reminders about this, so help, just like vaccines, to help folks remember it's time for their heartworm preventive injection. So that's pretty much the story on what heartworms is. It affects dogs and cats. It's a very serious disease. It can be a chronic, slow, insidious disease, or it can cause an acute illness. And then, as I mentioned, in cats, for example, it can even cause sudden death. And there's so many easy and effective ways to prevent and keep these from infecting your pets. Please contact us at Lake Chattooga Animal Hospital or Tri-County Animal Clinic. And thanks for watching Your Pet, Your Vet.